Time to pack for Venice. It is one of the most beautiful antique shows I do all year. It's the beginning of my Florida show season. Let's take a look. Here is a piece of Yadra that is very different than a lot of Yadra we see. You see the typical colorations in the green and blue and beige, but look at this amazing lily pad, again with somebody hand setting all of that. I'm starting to really be attracted to these porcelain pieces with all of this work because it's so delicate. It's just amazingly refined. And look at the lovely patterning on the back. It's neat when you see a figure that's done to be enjoyed from all sides. This one has the Yadra mark here, and it is priced at $295. In later years, Picard tended to do an all-over gold brocade. And so you'll see this one. This is rose and daisy pattern. You can see the roses and daisies in it. It's one of their most popular patterns of the time. And then here's the rose and daisy pattern, but it has the nice green base. So this is 1920s vintage, and those are priced at $145 for the pair. She also has some really nice costume jewelry, and she's very good at giving names so you don't have to flip every piece to see. And there's some names in here that I haven't talked about before, like Pell, which is collectible. Park Lane is a good line of jewelry. Monet is still made today, but you can tell the older pieces because they have the dull gold rather than the shiny gold. The poodle pin is a good example there. This is Maxim. We don't see a lot of Maxim jewelry, but look at that great flare that that has, and that beautiful emerald stone. This has some nice Rivoli stones here. This piece is Kramer. Kramer is a good outfit out of New York. And Joan Rivers jewelry, we are seeing people starting to collect that. There is definitely a secondary market for her pieces. Kramer is out of New York, and she has several nice pieces, and you can just tell the quality of the rhinestones, all the closeness in the setting. A lot of work and detail went into that. And $35 is actually a good price for those. This listener piece, the necklace, is actually one of the more attractive listener pieces. They made a lot of stuff that's just sort of basic party jewelry, but I have to say the colors in those stones really have a look to them. And while names matter a lot in costume jewelry, the look is the first thing because that's what people are really looking to buy. Florenza tends to do a lot of encrusted looking pieces like this from about 1970. This is Art. Art makes some really good pieces. I like the dimension of this clover-shaped leaf pin. Castlecliff is another company that is a name worth looking for. Les Bernard, another New York jewelry name that is popular with collectors today. This pin or pendant with the big green stones is likely to be Juliana, Diella, and Lister. You can see a little bit of puddling on the back, but not a ton. So I would have to verify that by looking in a book. But it's definitely got the color and the interesting use of stones and the clustering. I think her prices are good for what I'm seeing. I'm not finding a lot of good rhinestone right now. So to see a lot in one place is very nice. Well, this fellow always has fantastic stuff, and I've got to show you this ship model. My goodness, this is really impressive. This looks like something that somebody made from scratch at home. What can you tell me about this?
It's most likely U.S. troop transport.
Yeah, I thought it looked like a military ship.
It circa about 1910, 1915.
Right, because the stacks are at an angle, yeah.
Right, it's most likely modeled for a real ship, and I believe commissioned for Schoner to make out of Germany.
Oh, interesting.
And so they would make the ship and then have it in advance of the orders so that the salesman can point.
So this is essentially the salesman sample. Wow.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Where did you find something like this?
It came out of Maine.
Yeah.
Where all the deep water shipyards are close to.
Oh, that makes sense. Wow. How beautiful. And even look at the wood decking and all of the cleats. I mean, a lot of detail.
Together, you know that they're selling to seamen, you know?
Yeah. This was definitely not a toy. This was done to show what they're actually doing. This is just amazing. And the condition overall is really great. That is just fantastic. And probably the only one in existence, I would think, by now, right?
One of a kind.
How cool. It's this really great cypress knee lamp that I just got. And the shade is Silver Springs up in North Florida with the boats. This is interesting. It's actually from the Hotel Intercontinental in Jerusalem from about 1970, but what an interesting print, this abstraction of Jerusalem. I think that's really cool, and the colors are absolutely out of the early 70s. This beautiful French clock is worth somewhere in the $3 to $350 range. It's got lovely inlays. It's marked Herrera à Paris. It does work. I've got to put the pendulum on. I love all the fruitwood inlay. This is going to be 1880s approximately, when France was at the peak of clock production in the world. Next to the really cool lamp from Silver Springs are these paintings by Carlo. Now, these are factory paintings, but they're really nicely done, and there's a pair. And they're very much a late 60s, early 70s look. They're very Floridian in nature. And here's an example of why these European porcelains with the applied florals are so interesting. This is a 20th century piece, but look at the detail in the flowers. The stamen coming out of the middle of the flowers. It's so ornate. And the crazy thing, this is the back. The front is even fancier because, of course, it has the scene in the middle of the front. All of this had to be applied by hand. It was easy to break when doing it. It was easy to break when firing it. And if you're not careful and you grab it by those, it's easy to break when you are moving it around in your house. So that's why these are so prized. And the idea, you think, well, gee, that's a lot to fuss with. Well, yes, that was the idea, is we can have something so fine and fancy that we will take the time to be careful with it, because look how exquisite it is. Look at this neat lamp that came out of St. Petersburg. It's just beautiful with the lights, and look at the base. It's really neat to see something like this at a show. Usually people don't bring something so large.
That's from our gang.
Oh, Petey the dog from our gang. That's
the original, the one before you probably.
I have never seen the jointed figure before. That is really neat. Is that a show and hut?
It's got the palace.
Oh, yes, I
Company
see.
name Palace.
Oh, very interesting. How much?
This is the earlier one.
That's really cool. Yeah, so 1920s probably then when our gang first came out.
Yeah.
Oh, that is really neat. How much does Pete the Pup sell for?
I have $125 on it.
Gosh.
It's an 11-inch.
That seems pretty reasonable for something that's obscure and early like that, and he's in great shape.
All flexible.
Oh, how neat. Thank you. Fun thing to see.
It is a fun thing.
And I see you have a bunch of stiff roosters. I don't see the roosters and hens very often. Those are cute.
The hen is what is rarer.
Oh, the hen is harder to find, really?
Harder to find. I don't know why.
Interesting. Well, maybe because the rooster had the green tail, and that's what kids grabbed for first.
I don't know.
Oh, those are really neat. So 95 on the large rooster, and then the little hen, which is the scarce one, is 125. And see, this is the thing to know when you get into collecting areas, is to figure out what the obscure things are, because a lot of people who were just looking at these might not have guessed that the hen would be the valuable one, but it makes sense to me. I love these chenille Santas from the early 50s. A lot of these are occupied Japan mark, and they've got those pipe cleaner bodies and those great bisque porcelain faces. Very collectible now. Shell souvenirs first became popularized in England in the late 1800s, and this is a great example. Look at this cute little dresser. It's also a pin cushion. It's a jewelry boxer for sewing notions. This one, they were done as souvenirs. This one is priced at $195, and it should date to about 1890. These are grape shears, and they were specifically made for cutting grapes and often have a grape handle. These are sterling silver, priced at $115. The brass-handled scissors in the sheath here from Germany are priced at $85. This is a really neat funnel. It's porcelain. It's only $25, but it is an old Meissen type decoration on there from Europe again. And then the blue onion pattern and these little pieces here along with the rolling pin. This is going to be mid-1900s on this one, priced at $195. Blue onion is a very, very famous early pattern. originally popularized by Meissen. And they also have the ladle and the slotted lifter here. These are from about 1920, you can tell by the handle, and then this one's a little bit later. The handle is a little less ornate. Oh, how neat. She's got the miniatures. Wow. Oh, that's really cute.
Yeah.
I've never seen a miniature in Blue Onion.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, they were toys, so they got broken.
Right, of course, yeah.
I've had all the little utensils, too, in the miniature size.
Oh, that is so neat. I did not realize they did miniatures in Blue Onion, but it stands to reason. And like you said, you're going to see a lot fewer of those than the real thing because kids broke them and
they played with them.
And they probably didn't make as many to begin with. And this is a lovely, cute little doll with the...
little German.
Yeah, look at the eyes. I'm not used to them doing such detail with the eyelashes and everything on bisque. That's very nicely done. And I like her costume, too.
Yeah, that's the original costume.
Oh, you always do get neat stuff. There's a stife that most people wouldn't recognize as stife from a distance because it doesn't look like mohair. It feels like it's velvet. Yeah, or velveteen.
They didn't make this particular pig. I've had many stiff pigs, but they haven't made it with the shamrock.
With
just a certain number of years they made that.
Oh, very interesting. That's something I've never seen before, and I've seen a lot of stife, so that's a new one on me. Very cool.
It was a new one on me.
And look at this tiny little suitcase. And it is as much like a real suitcase as could be. This is a doll-sized suitcase from about 1900, and isn't that sweet? It's got the latch and everything, even the leather straps, in about the same condition as the old suitcases typically are now. Now, these folks sold a big piece of furniture yesterday, a really big stacking bookcase, but they also carry a lot of really nice pottery. All these pieces here are Rookwood, and I particularly like the trivet with the seagulls. This is 1929. If we look at the back, you'll see the XIX in the Roman numerals that let you know that that's when that piece came about. Here is the 1941 version, and actually 51. That was right before they went out of business. They had various artists and designers. This one is by Charles Todd, who was a painter in 1919, priced at $3.95. All of these are artist signed pieces, and various artists can be worth a lot of money. This is one of the earliest. They believe this is around 1882, Amelia Sprague. Rookwood was founded by a society woman in Cincinnati, and she had a lot of women who worked for her, which is neat. This is Carolyn Steinley. This is from 1917, priced at $4.50. The artist side pieces can be very valuable. $5.50 for the Charles McLaughlin. Here's Hattie Horton, 1880s for $400. Margaret MacDonald from 1921. Just beautiful with the vellum glaze and very soft painting underneath. They're very, very, very pretty and very collectible. And this one is Janet Harris. It's out of the case, so we're going to take a look. You see the painting on the front, but then there is the initialing on the back. So when you find Rookwood pieces, look for the initials because those are going to indicate artist-made pieces. Little toy walkers. Yes, they are becoming a collectible thing from the 70s and 80s. There's E.T. there. This crazy goose. I think that was from a Disney movie, and I can't remember which one. These are a lot of fun, and there are collectors now. And you'll see Santas, and you'll see Smurfs, and you'll see crabs, and then whatever this is.
Now this is the mothership of all pocket watches.
That's fantastic.
This is late 1500s. It's called a table or a drum clock, single hand, really a museum piece.
Yes,
and it is. I've
never seen one out of a museum.
And from this, that's how they began to miniaturize pocket watches. That was really the beginning of miniaturization.
So how did you find such a piece?
I bought it at a show from a dealer. That and the watch next to it.
Wow.
So.
Oh, and that's quite old too. 1790s quarter-hour repeater. I mean, everything had to be completely made by hand, and I mean, you had to have money to have a timepiece back then. So these are very, very, very hard to find. Wow, fantastic. Do you mind me asking how much the Italian clock would cost?
25 to 30,000.
Yeah. I believe it. It's amazing. And even this piece with the key wine being as old as the 1790s, that puts it in another realm as well.
But it's actually a recase. So I believe the original case, it would have been pear case. So that's not the original case. Somebody did a very nice marriage of the movement with the case. But that's still a $2,500 piece, even like that.
Even like that, yeah. But wow, how nice to see something that we might never see again. Thank you so much. My friend Ken just bought this piece, and it's really unusual.
I think that's celluloid. I don't think it's art.
It looks like celluloid, but mother of pearl. I'm not used to seeing that on that, especially on a celluloid case.
And I have to clean the blade up a little bit. But...
Oh, that's really nice, though. What do you figure, 1870s?
Yeah. I don't know if you ever heard the story of why in World War I the soldiers were never going to use these because of the danger in the trenches and the bombs.
Oh, right.
So Gillette came out with
the safety razor. Yes, I did hear that story, and I thought that was pretty brilliant. I guess that and wristwatches were the other thing, because fumbling for your pocket watch in the war theater was a bad idea. So, yeah, Ken is a great guy. He and his wife have a space over there. Dot also has some really cool New York World's Fair stuff from the 1939 World's Fair, including the pillow cover here, which has scenes in New York, and the fair. We're going to open this up so you can see. Even the administration building was a great deco affair. Here's a view of the fair. There's the Trilon and the Perisphere, as you see in the corners there. This shows the Pittsburgh Plate Glass Center. Lots of industrial exhibitions at the 39 World's Fair, which was all supposed to be about the world of tomorrow. Unfortunately, the world of today got in the way, and World War II sent it to an early close. This plate was done by the Pottery Pavilion. This particular one is a Homer Laughlin. You can see the Fiesta Ware style rings, and the color is an early Fiesta color. But this was a joint exhibit of capital and labor, and so the potters and the pottery companies got together and did this exhibit and made various souvenir plates. They also made these, the George and Martha Washington mugs. You see George a lot more than you see Martha. And this again has the joint exhibit of the American Potter label on the bottom. And this one has it embossed, which is unusual. Martha is $60 because she's harder to find. And then little pins you could wear as souvenirs walking around the fair. This one has sort of a sweeping bow knot or ribbon effect. And this one is a scatter pin with the Trilon and Perisphere. And yes, they even sold paperweights and citrus knives. What makes this a World's Fair knife? Well, when you take it out and you look at the box, it's got the New York World's Fair logo on it. And the idea of these glass knives for citrus were that they wouldn't mess up your blades back before stainless steel was the thing people used. Look how fun this yarn winder is. It's sculptural. I can see this almost as art, but it's also something that would be really cool in a collection of primitives. And that would have all folded down and been portable. This is a neat Sommerso style glass elephant here. They have 95 on that. It's funny to think now that children were encouraged to play with lead soldiers, considering that we avoid children with lead because of concerns about developmental issues, but it was a different time, and these were made of white metal, zinc, tin, and lead mixed together because they were moldable, but toy soldiers are very collectible. Painted ones typically sell for more if they say Britons on the bottom, which this one does. That's one of the more desirable companies. That's the little beefeater there. But they did inexpensive flat-pressed ones in this country that represent everyone from knights and jousters to World War II munitions and vehicles. And then you've got cowboys and Indians, just a ton of different lines in lead soldiers and animals and critters and all that good stuff. Definitely collectible and a lot of fun. And my friends from Lexington, Kentucky are here showing again. And they have some really neat pieces, but I wanted to show this one in particular. This is a Danish pottery with the hand-painted squirrel. And this is not one of the Danish potteries that you are as familiar with, probably, because we see a lot of Royal Copenhagen and Bing & Grendel, but this one, look at the marks on the bottom. That mark was L. Hjorth out of Denmark, and this is a really neat arts and crafts piece, and they produced on the island of Bornholm, as you see there, before the Second World War. And so this is the mark you're looking for, and this is a more obscure mark. A lot of people don't know to look for this, but you can tell by the price that they should know to look for this, because the early Danish potters, especially the ones who were outside of the Royal Manufactory and Bing & Grendel, have really caught on now with collectors. And there's a lot of information coming out about them, so definitely an area worth seeking. Jadeite. It's jadeite, yes. Yeah. Very good. Yeah, there's jade, jadeite, and bowenite. And I know bowenite, if it's perfectly green, then you probably have that. But this is very nicely done, and even being jadeite as opposed to jade, that seems like a really good value. How did you get this?
Out of an estate in Frankfurt.
Frankfurt, yep. Yeah, they have nice stuff up in your part of Kentucky. I've got to say, you are in the right place.
These people had traveled all over the world.
That teal and slag glass, yeah, that is very nice. This dealer has some really wonderful things. This is John out of St. Petersburg, and he has this piece. I sold one of this line last year. This is Royal Ducks, and look at her, the Cobra Charmer. Wow. This is a relatively new one. You can tell by the mark, but it is fantastically beautiful. I've seen a lot of mid-century phones. I can honestly say I've never seen this Lucite one before. Priced at $175 out of the 70s when push buttons were a new idea. Tell me your name again.
Nancy.
Nancy. Nancy is a viewer, and she came all the way to the show, and I'm very excited. And look what she got. Oh, wow. And it's the bride and groom, and it's the Cupid. That's actually a hard one to find.
Yes, 1913, I was told.
Oh, yeah. That's just a couple of years after they came out. That is really, really neat. And the condition looks good. And look at her little skirt. Oh, that's wonderful.
Isn't that beautiful?
That is really fun. I'm so glad you found something fun at the show. And do you mind me asking how much it was?
$45.
Oh, it's actually a pretty good price for this one.
Is it? Oh, good.
Yeah. Oh, I think you got a good deal. I honestly think that's probably a $75 to $95 piece because the motif is unusual. So,
yes,
no,
and
you
it's
did
in
great.
Good condition. It's not.
Exactly.
The fabric is nice.
And she's even got her little blue wing. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
oh, I'm so glad you came to the show. It's so exciting to see people on this side of the camera, you know. That's just, it's really great, though. Yeah, I really like the blue color. It's so vibrant. Definitely looks like something out of the 80s. There's some really fun stuff here, though. I like this little piece of furniture, too.
That's beautiful. So that's like a couple hundred years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like you can really tell, like when you open this up.
Oh, yes.
Like
Look at the dovetailing.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's really beautiful.
Oh, yeah. And you can see, look how it's aged and oxidized, but not quite as much where it was inside the drawer. Yep.
Right?
Oh, that's really interesting with the chip carving, too. This looks like something that would have been, it's all spoon carved, and it does look 19th century. Is this something that would have been made in Latin America? Because it doesn't really...
That's what they were thinking, is that like South America or New Mexico even, or like
yeah, somewhere in the colonial New World of Spain. Yeah, it definitely looks like it to me, too, the way it's made and with the pegging and everything. That's really a neat piece, and $295 seems like a really good price.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Thank you. How fun.
Yes.
Except for trying to get the drawer back in, right? But it seems like it works well.
I know, it's in great shape.
Yeah. Oh, that's really neat. The stein here is quite lovely. Now, this looks like a newer one, but it definitely is in the style of old. This is it is Metlock, which is the big company you want, but this one is done in 1980 as part of the Brothers Grimm series. So they've done it in the style of their circa 1900 pieces, but this was a more recent edition, and it's only $45, which seems like a great price for it. And here's a neat selection of chimney flues from the early 1900s. Priced in the $35 range each. This is really neat. If you have an old house, you would actually need one of these. I grew up in an old house where we needed one of these to cover the hole where the chimney flue was because it got very drafty otherwise. But they're a fun thing to collect, and you can hang them like wall art. The front piece is Limoges and the back piece is George Jones and Son in England. It makes sense because, of course, the Limoges factories with the porcelain and the decoration were very much market leaders, and so other countries and other companies would seek to follow them. The George Jones piece is from the early 1900s, as is the Limoges piece. The Limoges piece is priced at $325 because it's a hard-to-find serving piece. The George Jones, which has a nice look, is only $55. One nice thing about antique shows like this is that you'll find people who deal in gold and silver and currency and coins, and this fellow has a great collection of various currency. We didn't have one national bank for a long time. Regional banks, well, they would be commissioned sometimes by governments, or the bank would make money themselves, and you had to rely on the bank for its security. So you see them from all over the place, and they're very interesting. The graphics all vary. This one is Planters Bank of Fairfield, South Carolina, $25 on that piece. This one was the state of Louisiana because money wasn't circulating well enough, because they didn't have national banks at various points. The local banks had to make currency that they would take that would circulate in their area. Finally, we get to the point where we have United States currency that is backed by the government. And then you see these very large greenback dollars. Well, they're not really very green compared to what we're looking for. This is really neat, the large one here. Only 7 known of that, huh? That's amazing. Is that Salem, Massachusetts? New York. Ah, okay. When did the era where all the individual banks issue end?
National bank notes were in the 1870s it started. And you see these little numbers on the bill, 11,862. That's the actual bank charter number.
Oh,
like 12, 13,000 chartered banks in the United States.
Right.
And as long as they had the money, the banks were solvent and they had the money, the United States would actually print the bills for them and put the bank's name on it with the charter number. And that's now these nationals are collected by, there's a huge national banknote following it. And you don't get to see a lot of $6, $7, $8, and $9 bills, but that's what you have.
Oh, how fun. Yes, we forget that was lots of money, so they might have had other denominations. A $9 bill. Who'd have thought? Those are fascinating. Wow, thank you. Here's a $50 bill. That would have been a lot back then, even with the inflation that was happening near the end of the war. $2 bill from the state of North Carolina. Of course, the Confederacy was the idea that they were going to break the government down to the states. That meant that there were all sorts of different currencies, and they didn't translate well between the states. Turns out there were some reasons that breaking things down that much made things kind of inefficient. Here's a fractional currency, 50 cents, 10 cents. They didn't really have the metal to do a lot of coinage, so they did a lot of fractional currency at that time. Very interesting collection and some real rarities here. My friend Jack is in his late 80s. He's been a dealer here for years. He gets really great stuff. He's got a bunch of still banks right now. These are good starter pieces that you see quite a bit from about 1900, 1910. This is by the Kenton Company, and it's the one that is the Star Safe. And even if you don't have the combination, they're pretty easy to figure out. And then this one's the bank building. But he's also got this really neat cast iron owl bank. I'm on an owl kick this morning. Now here is real silver overlay. I talk a lot about how there's silver electroplate. If you broke it, there wouldn't be any silver really left. But this, if you feel it, this has texture. And you can tell that if this piece of glass broke, you would still have the silver in exactly this pattern because it's applied to the top. And silver overlay is much more valuable and desirable than silver electroplate. A very pretty piece in the middle here by Val St. Lambert, if you like things that are a little more Art Deco style. This is fluted and blends into the magenta rim, as you see. Val St. Lambert is from Belgium. It's very well made. It's considered elegant quality glass, and that one's at $245. And then next to it, there's another Fenton wheat vase, and here's a very unusual spattered color, and they've actually got $65 on that, which I think is a very good price for what it is. And that might actually be a I should buy that and take that with me price. As always, the Venice show has been so much fun. Beautiful things, a wonderful venue, great people who came. I was so excited. I met a bunch of viewers for the first time. We all had a really good time. And there's only one show this season, so come join us this weekend, the 13th and 14th of January, for my first Florida show of the new season. If you enjoyed this video, check out this one. Also, click thumbs up to like this video and check the description for information about our Patreon, our memberships. We've got a lot of different levels with different perks and bonus videos and early content. Also, please do check out our website, theantiquenomad.com, for appraisal help. And we'll see you again for more adventures in the antique and vintage community soon. Bye for now.